Welcome back to the channel, folks, where today we look at another unusual plant without petals and sepals. The plant that we are looking at today is known as Sun Spurge or Euphorbia helioscopia, and this is a plant in the family Euphorbacea or the Spurge family. So let us jump straight in and look at the habitat and general background of this plant. So, welcome back to the channel, folks, where today we're looking at another plant known as Sun Spurge or Euphorbia helioscopia, which is a plant in the family Euphorbacea or the Spurge family. The plant itself, as you can see, grows between 20 and 50 centimetres high. It presents itself in a series of 5 umbels. And it's a very unusual plant in so much as it doesn't have sepals and petals. And we've seen this before in other plants that we filmed, such as Lords and Ladies, where the bract effectively becomes a spathe. And indeed, in Dog's Mercury, the dioecious plant, which doesn't have showy petals or sepals because it's wind pollinated. But meantime, back to the focus of this video, which is the Sun Spurge. The Sun Spurge, as I say, presents in umbels of 5 umbrella-like structures with 5 little leaves. I don't know if you can see that. And it's a relatively hairless or smooth plant, particularly on the stem. The stem is hollow and produces a milky sap. And it is that milky sap that has led to its many common vernacular names. Such names include Dwarf Spurge and Madwoman's Milk, as well as umbrella milkweed. And the plant itself is quite toxic, and the sap can be quite harmful. And I would just, as an aside, give a cautionary note to botanists when actually handling plants, and in particular exudates such as sap in ultraviolet light and bright sunshine, to be cautious because various changes can occur to the sap which can cause burns and irritants. So this is the plant itself. There are possibly 3 confusion species associated with it. We have the Petty Spurge, the Dwarf Spurge and the Wood Spurge. And the main difference between the Petty Spurge and the Sun Spurge is possibly the size and the degree of branching, amongst others. The Dwarf Spurge is distinguished by its long pinnate leaves, and the Wood Spurge, Petty Spurge and Dwarf Spurge all have glandular structures on the flowers which have hook tips, unlike the Sun Spurge. So there are lots and lots of dichotic factors that you should be keying just to make sure that you're looking at a Sun Spurge. But it is a relatively easy plant to identify in the field. And this is it before us. As I say, smooth stem, small ovate leads towards the base, 5 leaves here in a whorl, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 umbels, which all have a little platform or Cyathium with the reproductive organs set on the boat. So that's a brief insight to the overview of the plant. Habitat that we find it in, which is what we're actually documenting, is waysides and roadsides, and it is what you'd call an archaeophyte. And an archaeophyte is a plant that has been naturalised by some considerable years. The benchmark in that usually is 1492, so that would include plants that were imported by the Romans. So it's an archaeophyte as opposed to a neophyte, which is a more recent introduction that is becoming naturalised. And I thought it might just be worth clarifying 1 or 2 of those botanical terms. Here we have it, Sun Spurge, Euphorbia helioscopia, and it's a plant in the family Euphorbacea or Spurge family. Please be wary of the sap as it contains chemicals which may be toxic or become irritants to the skin. Here in this shot we can see the inflorescence consisting of 5 umbels, each with an individual flower, maximising the surface area and exposure to the pollinator. This image contains 5 individual flowers located on one umbel. Each flower sits on a boat-like structure known as a Cyathium, and it contains the plant's reproductive part. Confused by what you are seeing? Well, worry not. We will be doing an individual diagram identifying the plant's stigmas, stamens and glands. In these shots, we peer down past the umbels and note the symmetry of 5 leaves, which are ovate in shape and have toothed edges. Next up, the purple-brown hollow stem, which secretes the milky sap, subject of concern. And finally, the ovate basal leaves spiralling up the stem, which can either be infrequent or regular, depending on the plant. The plant has a number of common vernacular names: Sun Spurge, Summer Spurge, Madwoman's Milk, Wart Spurge, Umbrella Milkweed and Wolf's Milk, generally reflecting the toxicity, and the plant is in the family Euphorbacea or the Spurge family. The Latin binomial is straightforward. The prefix Euphorbia is derived from Euphorbus, a Greek physician who served King Juba. The suffix helioscopia is Latin meaning sun and to look to, which describes the plant's propensity for a sunny aspect. As always, before we embark on our journey into the field, let us look at the features and characteristics which will enable us to identify it, in particular the vegetative and floristic characteristics, notably of the Cyathia, which will enable us to distinguish the confusion species. As always, we include a detailed botanical slide for those of you who may wish to study the plant further, and it may be stopped at any point to view the information. Spurge is a herbaceous annual plant. It grows between 20 and 50 centimetres in height, and it likes cultivated and waste ground with fertile soil. The most notable feature of the plant is that its petals and sepals are absent, and the yellow bracts look like petals and serve a similar function. Let us briefly recap the floristic formula before we look at the structure of the Cyathium in detail. Both the petals and sepals are absent in this plant. The bracts are leaf-like and yellowish green. There are 3 stamens, which are often forked, and 1 stigma, which is 3-celled. The fruit is 1 broad 3-angled capsule of about 3 to 5 millimeters, which splits into 3 parts. The seeds are 3, which are circa 2 millimeters, brown and rough in form. The optimal flowering period for Sun Spurge is between the months of May and August. Pollination in this plant is encouraged by an accessible and open platform known as the Cyathium, maximising surface area through umbrella-like umbels and providing a landing base for insects seeking pollen and nectar. It is primarily pollinated by bees and hoverflies, who capitalise on the pollen and nectar source and whose contact facilitates pollination. The Cyathium of Spurges are unique flower structures where individual flowers are reduced to their essential reproductive parts, with male flowers containing only stamens and female flowers only pistils. In this diagram we can see the 4 male stamens, which are Y-shaped, and above we can see the 3 bifid stigmas located at the top of the ovary. The ovary in Sun Spurge, as can be seen, is superior, meaning it is above the rest of the flower parts. We highlight the incentive for the insect pollinator, that being the 4 of glistening glands secreting nectar on the surface of the Cyathium. This unusual structure, akin to a dinner plate, has weathered the test of time, inducing insect pollinators to the plant. Okay, so let's just have a quick go at describing this plant from stem to toe. Its leaves spiral up from the base, and they are obviate, being broader at the top than at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, possibly not, but that's the lower leaves spiraling up the stem. The stem is hairless and smooth, very like a dandelion stem, and tinged red. It's hollow and exudes a sap, which we've covered in the introduction. Moving towards the umbels, it has 5 umbels and 5 circular leaves, so it's a very symmetrical plant. And we come to each umbel, which has the individual flowers, both male and female, so it is a monoecious plant. And what we have here is the flower structures sat on a little platform known as a Cyathium. And as we've said before, it has no bracts or sepals, so therefore no petals or sepals, and it is the yellow bracts that are doing the job of the petal. On the plant itself, we have both the male and female parts. So what we have is 4 stigmas, which are Y-shaped, a number of glands which are around the edge, moving towards the tips of the structure. So you have a number of little glands, the 4 male stamens, which are Y-shaped, and in the centre of the plant you have the female stigma, which is bifid or split, and there are 3 stigmas. So what we have basically is a number of glands which are towards the lip of the platform, and 4 stamens which are in fact Y-shaped, and 3 stigmas which are bifid. So that is the internal workings of the plant. It has 1 ovary, which is 3 cells, which give rise to a large globular type fruit, which splits into 3 when the flower yields its seeds at the end of the season. So that's a brief overview of the inflorescences. Remember, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 umbels, so these are inflorescences, and then on each umbel we've given an account of the individual flower. So that in essence is the floristic characteristics of Euphorbia, helioscopia, and there are 3 other potential confusion species. We have the Petty Spurge, which is Euphorbia, the Petty Spurge, the Dwarf Spurge, and the Wood Spurge. And each of them will differ slightly in keying characteristics. So for example, Petty Spurge and Sun Spurge, this is Sun Spurge, differ in the number of branches and the relative size. This is one quick way of distinguishing. And also when we look at the individual flower structure, all 3 of those species, Petty, Dwarf and Wood, have horned appendages on the glands. So that's another way of distinguishing them. And Dwarf Spurge speaks for itself because the leaves are thin and lanceolate and not ovate. So those are some of the differential characteristics that would enable you to distinguish the confusion species. The Petty Spurge, Dwarf Spurge and Wood Spurge. We would of course be remiss if we did not document the vegetative characteristics of the plant. The upper leaves are broad, in a whorl of 5, and contain minute teeth. The leaf stalk is absent. The lower leaves, between 1.5 and 3 centimetres, are spirally arranged around the stem and vary in numbers according to the plant. The stem is single, purple-brown, hollow and produces the milky sap. We're not going to deal with the confusion species in detail other than to point them out and to give you clues and pointers for further study. Upcoming is a slide comparing the features and characteristics of all 4 species of Spurge, and it may be stopped at any point to study and read. The following is a brief compilation of the confusion species, commencing with Petty Spurge, which tends to be more branched and with subtle differences in the Cyathium, such as the presence of horns on the nectar glands. Next up is the Dwarf Spurge, readily distinguished by its lanceolate leaves, setting it apart from the other Spurges. Next up, a brief insight into the Wood Spurge Euphorbia amylgdaloides. A notable feature of this plant is that the upper leaves are joined or shared. For those who wish to take dichotic keying further, here is the following slide, which may be stopped, comparing and contrasting all 4 species of the Spurges that we've looked at in the video. So let us now allow this harbinger of sunshine to speak for itself. Well folks, that's it from me on the Sun Spurge. Once again, thank you very much indeed for watching and getting to the end. If you have liked or enjoyed this video or found it interesting or educational, please like, share and subscribe to help this channel become successful. All that remains to be said, in the words of Maggie, our international symbol of floral excellence, is keep your paws away from the toxic sap of Sun Spurge. Whatever the weather may be, go outdoors and enjoy it.